Good morning, and today I'm feeling really excited to share just a little bit of my current experience with Swedish with you guys. So I just got in my little spaceship, got my toast, coffee, as always. So I'm going to enjoy this, get some meditation done, and then today we'll talk about just a very special little thing that I'm experiencing right now. I'm enjoying reading this magazine so much. So I just finished reading sort of a photo essay, lovely article here about a morning in Stockholm, describing the coffee shops and different people, different encounters, and just a wonderful description of the sun finally coming out of its sleep on a winter's day in Stockholm. And so it's just so nice looking at these pictures. All these people were described in the essay, and so now I'm reading about good old Swedish fika with my very own little mini fika here in the spaceship. So loving it. Again, none of this is in Swedish, this is all in English, but it really makes me just relish the fact that I'm studying the language of these people right now. Like, the language that these people all speak is what I am studying, and so naturally this makes me sort of fantasize and imagine going to Sweden one day, getting to finally actually be around people speaking this sort of mysterious language I've been learning for a long time, but had very few opportunities to actually speak to a person. So cheers to language learning, and especially learning those languages for which you really have just intrinsic motivation to learn. I'm not learning Swedish because I'm surrounded by Swedes. I'm not learning Swedish because it'll help me get a job tomorrow. I'm learning Swedish for primarily and almost exclusively intrinsic reasons, and that is a beautiful thing. Okay, so really enjoyed having my breakfast with my coffee and my magazine, and so now I just again want to quickly share what's going on. So the funny thing is that as I've been studying my Swedish studies again, it's been really fun, and it's kind of given me a little bit of a spark that I haven't had for a while. So interestingly enough, it's Thursday now at the time of recording this, so basically my 4th day back to Swedish. And so already in the last three days and a little bit, I actually finished the entire beginner level 1 course with Babbel. So I found myself doing it on the train, to work, back from work, or on the bus. I found myself during the work day taking little 5-minute breaks to just sort of do one Babbel lesson, or you know, just sitting down in the kitchen for a little bit of work and doing a Babbel lesson, things like that. Like, I found myself doing it a lot, which is how I used to be all the time with languages, where I would just be always studying languages, any second I could get, any dead time, anything. So it's been really nice, and it's just been such a pleasure, like, being so enthralled by a language again. I think part of this is there's this sort of purity I have with my Swedish studies, with Italian, with German, with Spanish, with, you know, Portuguese, French, Japanese. These languages I have a large history with. There are things in my life that happened. There are people and relationships that I have had, like both friendships and in some cases more. I lived in a lot of these places after learning the language. Sometimes I had bad experiences. Now, I love all those languages. It's not to say like that there's a negative thing. It's just that there is a lot of emotional baggage, both positive and challenging, with a lot of those languages. But with Swedish, it's funny because I've had so little opportunity to actually speak it with people. I've never been to Sweden. I have like no Swedish friends at all. With Swedish, all of these sort of emotional nostalgia that I have with Swedish, it's all just the pure joy of studying a language. So I think that might be important. And second of all, I did have some beautiful time studying Swedish, and I really enjoyed that. And then also, I'm really kind of going back to the beginner stuff in Swedish. So with German and with, my German was pretty rusty, so was my Portuguese. But I could still speak those languages to a degree, at least. With Swedish, it really has been such a long time, and it really got so rusty that I found it's almost like starting a language again, in a way, and I think that feels great. And so it's quite a different experience than going back to languages that you still speak very, very well. And then, so what's happening, fourthly, is that, again, because of my methodology that I always talk about, at the very start of this Polyglot's Journey series, we together went through setting up Dead Time Planner, setting up the tracking sheets, and we talked a lot about how I believe you should create this robust content catalog, a library of all the things you study. It should be organized, and you should really think carefully of how you document the things that you do. That's why tracking sheets are great. Because then, in this situation where you come back to a language that has become very rusty, right? I talk about this a lot. I'm repeating it today because it's extremely relevant. Is that when you redo the same activities that you once did, the language comes flooding back to you like a wave of water that just pours over you. And then the wave goes back and some things disappear again, but then it comes again and again. So with Babbel, I already finished the whole Babbel course catalog for Swedish twice. And the beginner lessons I probably did 3 times. Meaning the level 1, maybe level 2 or part of it. So I've seen this content several times, but it's been a very long time. So it's refreshing to see it again, and it gives me that sort of positive nostalgia of like, oh, I remember when this was new. I remember the first time when I realized that in Swedish, en man is like a man, the indefinite article, and then to make it the man, it's like mannen. Or like ett glas is a glass. Glaset is the glass. I remember the first time I learned this construction of how they put the definite article at the end of the word. Like, I remember how cool that was and how I was like, whoa, mind-blowing. Because when you study lots of languages, it's always fun when you discover a new way of doing something. Like a new way of conjugating a verb that you had never seen before. So it's all flooding back to me. Like, I feel like I have reviewed so much Swedish in the last few days, and it's all coming back. I already find myself wanting to make sentences in Swedish, wanting to express myself in Swedish. So I'm really looking forward to doing a 1-week update video, 2-week update, 3-week update, especially 1 month. I'm really curious to see how much of my Swedish I can get back in a month. But so I just wanted to share that with you guys, that there's this just wonderful spark happening, both in terms of just pure language learning, where Swedish is just flooding back to me. Also in terms of on a personal language learning level, in my own emotions and what I feel when I study Swedish, and the fact that it's just so, again, it's hard to explain why I'm studying Swedish to people sometimes, because people want to know why. Why the hell would you study Swedish? And so, again, I'm doing it for purely intrinsic reasons, for the most part. But then very lastly, when I say there's a spark that I haven't had for a long time with language learning and languages, it's not like I still love language learning and I never stopped. But the thing is that it's been incredibly unfortunate. It's almost been tragic. That ever since the very start of 2017, it just got derailed. Like the end of 2016, I was so on it. I mean, I had worked my ass off for such a long time, and I had my 8 major languages all up to very high levels, for the most part. And I also had things like Turkish I learned a little bit of. I had Hindi that I could actually speak, like chat and have a conversation in. I was so on it. And then I met the girl that I ended up later moving to Montreal for. And it derailed everything. My whole life switched. I ended up studying Vietnamese because she was a Vietnamese speaker. And I stopped doing my other languages. My life became very much consumed with helping her with projects, with like everything just span out of control. And then that year, as you guys know, was extremely challenging. Moving across the world multiple times, several continents, and then living in Barcelona twice, and then everything spiraled off. And then of course after that I took my hiatus because I was trying to learn to be a programmer and a software engineer, and I was trying to start my new company, I was trying to finish my book, then moving to SF. And then ever since then I've just had so many other priorities that are all clashing, and so it's been really hard for me to keep up my language learning and also my YouTube channel, but I have. So I have kept it up and I've done my very best, but it's been very hard. And so it's been difficult to have that same pure spark for language learning that I had before, when it was really just all about language learning. And that's all I did all the time. Even if I had a full-time job doing something else, I was always learning languages. I was always thinking about it. So it's really fun that for some reason, with the return of my Swedish studies, I feel that again now. And like I said, I love my job, love it. All day here is extremely challenging. I have new problems I have to solve every day. But I find myself squeezing in that 5 minutes just to get one more Babbel lesson done in Swedish. And I find myself collecting resources. I find myself fantasizing about traveling there and getting a chance to speak it. It's great. So I really just wanted to share that with you guys because this is a huge part of my Polyglot's journey.